For the first time, the United States has recognized the white minority in South Africa, the Afrikaners, as refugees, a decision that cracks the foundation of the prevailing narrative. A first group of 59 people has now arrived in the US, not as a privileged elite they are so often portrayed as, but as a people in need of protection. They face discrimination in the job market, they are threatened, they are targeted by violence, and now land expropriation without compensation. They are being driven out by a state that no longer sees them as equal citizens, but as a historical mistake to be corrected. And this isn't just about refugee status, it's a dividing line, a break from the post-colonial dogma that has shaped the West for over 30 years. Since the 90s, we have been told that in Africa, there's only one kind of victim, black, and only one kind of oppressor, white. That idea has dominated everything. UN policy, foreign aid, journalism, even how we see ourselves. So it's no surprise that mainstream media outlets, like here in Sweden, choose to put quotation marks around the word refugees, as if these people don't quite count, or as if their suffering isn't real. But something has changed. A first crack has appeared in the anti-white post-colonial narrative that Trump, with a nearly shut-down refugee program, chose to make an exception for the Afrikaners. It's a statement, a sign that the West still has an inner circle, that there are people we have a duty to protect, not because they are other, but because they are ours. And it's a distinction we failed to make in Zimbabwe, with devastating consequences, where the genocide of the white minority was met with silence, and through that silence, sanctioned by the world. The Afrikaners refuse to disappear. They remain, they endure, and they have cried out for help for decades. And now, someone finally listens, not with self-flagellation, not with hollow gestures, but with moral clarity and political will. And Trump said it plainly, this is wrong. These are people being persecuted for their identity, for their language, for their skin color. And he pointed to the facts: discriminatory black economic empowerment laws, land confiscation without compensation, stadiums full of people singing "Kill the Boer," brutal torture-style murders of white farmers. And he said what no one else in the establishment dares to say, but everyone knows. Had the roles been reversed, the world would have screamed. This is an acknowledgement that even white people can be victims of persecution, that there are limits, and that for once, the world has stopped giving its silent approval to anti-white hatred. Since the ANC took power in 1994, South Africa has changed. Today, there are more race-based laws than under apartheid. To be white is no longer a privilege, but a liability, a permanent accusation. And under the banner of justice, a new system of racialized oppression has taken hold. So when 59 Afrikaners landed in Washington, the left lost it. It was called racist to give asylum to white refugees. The Episcopal Church, which has received government funds for decades to help asylum seekers, suddenly withdrew from the program because this group didn't fit their narrative. In other words, the left's compassion is conditional. There are no human rights for white minorities, not in their world. Trump called it what it is: racial persecution, violence, land theft. He called it a slow-motion genocide. And he said, we have a responsibility to act. And I agree. We have a responsibility to protect those whom the world has turned its back on, not because of what they have done, but because of who they are. And what did the ANC say? President Ramaphosa denied everything. No discrimination, no persecution. And the Afrikaners, they are not refugees. They are just too comfortable, too lazy to take responsibility for their historical privilege. In their own words, They are not fleeing persecution, they are fleeing justice, equality, transformation. So, to want to live in peace on your own land, free from fear and violence, is, in their eyes, a refusal to submit. It's Orwellian, a totalitarian distortion of language straight out of 1984. And the reality is crystal clear. Thousands of attacks, torture, murders, packed stadiums singing about genocide, a state that looks away, and an international establishment that stays silent, or worse, shrugs. This is a test, a moral test, a test of integrity, and a warning. Because what happens when identity becomes guilt and justice becomes revenge? We've seen it before in Zimbabwe. We see it again now in South Africa. And what's happening there is real. It matters. But it also forces a harder question. What does it reveal about our condition here in the West? And if you want to understand what it takes to stand tall when the world demands submission, and how to rebuild when everything else falls apart, I recommend my book Orania, Building a Nation. It tells the story of how the Afrikaner minority choose not to surrender but sovereignty, a concrete model for peaceful separation and cultural resilience. And for historical context, you can read Among Boers and Britons, a first-hand account from the Second Boer War, where Scandinavian volunteers fought with the Boers, not just with rifles, but with heart and soul. And together, these two books form a mirror between collapse and construction, between history as a tragedy and the future as a choice. Both books are available on Amazon, and it's a great way to support the channel. Until next time, my name is Jonas Nilsson.